Good afternoon guys, my name is Doral Elvy and today I have the pleasure of presenting to you on the topic of abortion. Our topic question today will be: is abortion immoral? My answer to this popular ethical dilemma is yes, abortion is immoral, and here we will examine why. First, we will start with a definition of abortion. What is abortion? Abortion is the removal of pregnancy tissue, products of conception or the fetus and placenta. Or in other words, afterbirth from the uterus. Simply put, abortion is the prevention of childbirth by the termination of a pregnancy. But in the United States, abortion is used most often to end unplanned pregnancies. An unplanned pregnancy happens when proper birth control is not used, is used incorrectly, or fails to prevent a pregnancy. Abortion is also sometimes used to terminate a pregnancy when tests reveal that the fetus is abnormal. Why is abortion important? The issue of abortion is very important, mainly because it is a very touchy topic that involves a decision between taking a life or death, and there is a constant ongoing debate as to whether abortion is ethically moral or immoral. Now we will look at a little history and background of the social issue behind abortion. Abortion was for the most part not stigmatized until after 1840. During that period, the American legal system used the quickening doctrine taken from British common law system to decide on its legality. Quickening is when the pregnancy has reached a stage where the pregnant female can actually feel the fetus move inside her womb. This is typically between the 4th and 6th month of conception. This was the only sure way to confirm pregnancy at the time. Before this occurs, the fetus was considered only as a potential life and not an actual person or being. It was common for the women then to use herbal mixtures passed on by tradition through healers or physicians to cure their blocked menses before quickening occurred. Post-quickening abortion was a crime, but at the time, only a misdemeanor. Some historians have suggested that laws against post-quickening abortions were primarily intended to protect the health of the pregnant woman, not fetal life, as it was much more common for women to die during abortions that used instruments rather than herbal concoctions. Whatever the rationale, few abortions were prosecuted before the mid-19th century because quickening was so difficult to prove at the time. Only women themselves could testify to fetal movement. Now we will look at some very important questions that are usually raised as it relates to this topic. When is a fetus considered as a human being? Should abortion be legalized or criminalized? Should pregnant mothers be allowed to make their own choice when it comes to unwanted pregnancy? Does the embryo or fetus also have a right as that of the mother? Those are just some of the questions to ponder about. Some ethical dilemmas and difficulties in the theoretical and practical arenas are: 1. Whether a pregnant woman has the right to destroy a fetus. 2. Whether terminating a fetus is actually murder. 3. Whether the fetus or embryo should ever be considered as a person. 4. Whether a rape victim that is impregnated by her rapist should be allowed to terminate the pregnancy. 5. Whether a victim of child abuse or incest should be allowed to terminate her pregnancy. These questions raise some important ethical issues. Some popular arguments on the pro-life side of abortion state that: 1. A fetus is an innocent human being. 2. Deliberately killing an innocent human being is wrong. My position on this is that yes, I do believe a fetus is an innocent human being, as it is a form of life. I also believe that life begins at conception. Therefore, intentionally performing an abortion is immoral as it involves the killing of an innocent being. My argument to the stance I have taken is that life begins at conception, and so a fetus should therefore be protected by the same moral rights as a fully viable human being. I back this up with a quote from the text that states: "What is most revolutionary in all this is simply the idea that non-human animals count. We normally assume that human beings are alone and deserving moral consideration. Utilitarianism challenges that assumption and insists that we should care about any creature that feels pleasure and pain." Rachel's 2014 110. So again, based on that quote, my second argument is also backed up as deliberately killing an innocent human being or creature that is, or for those who don't wish to classify a fetus as a human being, it is wrong. Now we will analyze the dilemma of abortion based on the ideas and concepts of various philosophers that we read and discussed in class. By analyzing the dilemma from the view of the social contract theory, She would be subjected to whatever social contract is in place within the society she lives. If the social contract is one that preserves innocent lives, which is rudimentary in almost every society, then she would be breaking the contract, which makes it immoral for her to do an abortion. Now we will look at it from Aristotle's view. Aristotle once stated that the good of man is an activity of the soul in conformity with virtue. Rachel's 2014 161. Therefore, the killing of an innocent being would go against the belief of any moral person, thus making abortion immoral. Aristotle also defined virtue as a trait of character manifested in habitual action. Rachel's 2014 161. This means that in order for someone to be virtuous, they must hold to the same moral belief regardless of the circumstances. So, if the mother had already had a child that was causing her some form of inconvenience or pain, would it be moral to terminate that child's life? If the answer is no, then the same should apply to the idea of abortion. Next we will look at it from a deontological perspective. Kant stated that we should act only according to the maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Rachel's 2014 130. In this case, would the mother of that fetus be willing to have the killing of an innocent being become a universal law? If she is not willing to have that be a universal law, then the act is therefore immoral. Now finally, we will look at it from the view of a utilitarist. According to the text and Bentham's theory, to determine whether an action is right or moral, utilitarians believe that we should look at what will happen as a result of doing it. Rachel's 2014 115. So, let us look at abortion from a utilitarian's perspective by examining the consequence of having an abortion. The abortion may have arbitrarily terminated the next genius or next great scientist and or leader of the world. As utilitarianist, this would in turn hinder mankind's progression. As a result, such an action would not be for the greater good for the greater number of people. This would therefore be immoral as it is to mankind's disadvantage, rather than the improvement of society on a whole. From the arguments presented, it can be seen that performing an abortion is similar to killing an innocent human being. Life begins at conception, and so a fetus should therefore be protected by the same moral rights as a fully viable human being. Abortion should never be an option simply to escape parenthood. In the case of rape, there are alternatives such as adoption and counseling to assist with overcoming the trauma. Two wrongs can never make a right, so therefore it is immoral to perform an abortion.